I was all
All right.
excited to.
First of all, welcome everyone. Glad to have you here for our board meeting. We'll begin with a roll call, and Larry Jepson is board member excused.
Randall Bagley, board member.
Steve Norton, Roger. Steve Norton, superintendent excused.
Roger Pulsford, board member.
Kathy Christensen, board member.
Chris Corcoran, board member.
Jeff Nielsen, board member.
Terry Rhodes, board member.
And Dale Hanson, business administrator.
Okay, we'll go ahead and have our pledge, and Roger will lead us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay.
Our mission is to educate students for success in a changing world.
Thank you. All righty. I will take a motion to excuse us to the executive session.
I make a motion that we go into executive session.
Second.
All right, and we do need to vote individually about this, so we'll go ahead and start.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 Okay, we'll go ahead and move into executive session. Say, I can leave after that item or whatever. Yeah. How's the school year going for you? Good. That's good. You know, I don't know if it's always been this way. I live in a community called Kaysville. It's quite a little community. And they've got this thing that gives, it's this fiber. They want to go with, the city wants to go with this fiber program, so we can have multiple vendors use the same conduit, if you would, high-speed fiber to provide internet services to the community. And you got those that are supporting, like myself. I work out of my home, so it's important, it's to do all the things you're doing. And then you have those that maybe don't use the internet at all, or they use it just, they're still on AOL, yeah, who knows, but they don't use it much. Or they're low income, which I totally understand. And then there's just the troublemakers. Yeah. And I'm on this Kaysville Facebook page. I mean, I just, are these the same people that wave to you when you're at the store? Because
they are ruthless when they get behind that Facebook icon.
yeah,
They'll say,
behind it
they'll
doesn't.
never say, and it's just, it's not only what they'll say and how they'll say it, it's also this information, they need all the details, so much of that we deal with. If it's a employee situation, it's personnel, I can't give you that information, and it's not your business.
It's your business.
I got some knowledge from kids in class, and just do the plans for this kid in the room. You go to the doctor and all those football laws, they have the same thing that football laws.
Yeah,
You can't share that information, nor would you want to, because it's
your job, right?
and then they just, we'll see about that, I'll get you trying to get this information. You have no right to that information.
Well, it's like they're going to spend $30 million. It's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. It's a lot of money for a city. Yeah, it's not a lot of money, but in retrospective of everything else the city does and buys, we've got our own utility and everything else, like all the cities have. And it's like, no, this has to go out for a vote of the people. It's like, are you forgetting your form of government you have here?
Exactly.
Okay, every time you spend money, they can't be going out and getting an approval
You've elected these people to do that.
to make those choices, and if they don't do it right, they vote them out. You can't sit there and have them, they have to make decisions with, first of all, they're the ones that are supposed to be on the information, than their staffs, right? And then they make a decision what they feel is the best for the community. It may not be the best for everybody. In fact, it probably isn't.
It can't be the best for everybody.
No,
There will always be somebody else. Yeah.
So you can't just sit there and then just the lies and the misinformation. It's like, I don't know, the civility, just, it's unbelievable
meeting or
Yes, oh, to come out of executive.
to come out of executive session?
Yeah.
Okay, so these are the extras.
Got one more person here. No, go ahead.
Got in, all right. I have no idea why. Oh, well. So, is the suit better?
Yes, he is better, but he is now on family business.
Okay, well, I'm glad he's better. That's
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
You know what, I forgot to get some copies made for the options for the calendar. I guess we'll have to do it on the next.
Okay, yeah, do it in November.
Yeah.
So you're all ready
Yeah,
with, wow.
we got 3 options.
Oh
Look
my
really good. It
gosh.
was all Mike. I mean, he
put it
figured it
together.
out, yeah. And people actually seemed happy about it, so that's good.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll take a motion to come back from executive session into our board meeting.
I move that we return to our regular board meeting, ending our executive session.
I second.
All in favor, say yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Welcome to those who were not here at the very beginning. And we're going to go ahead and move on. We've already had our roll call and our pledge. And we will go to public input. No one in public input. Okay. We'll move down then to the consent agenda, and I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as printed.
I second.
Okay, we'll go ahead and vote electronically. If we can do that now, can we? Okay.
Chris, is yours ready? It's not up yet. Just a second. No, it's not coming up, but yes.
Okay, all the votes are in then and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move down to the action agenda, and our first item on that agenda, is a request for approval of the district financial audit report. And so that would be Brad, if we have any questions. So I will take a motion to approve the district financial audit report for
Kathy?
2019.
Kathy?
Can't do that.
Did you actually have a presentation you wanted?
Okay.
He had one ready, yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Definitely.
All right, we thought we'd shake things up a little bit this year and give you a presentation so you can look at it instead of trying to flip through the pages. You're welcome to flip through the pages and follow along with me as well, but I tried to get it all on the screen for you so that you could just follow along there as well. First of all, we'll thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to work with Dale and the members in the business office. I am, let's go ahead and flip to the next slide if we could. We'll answer the burning questions. Who is this guy and why is he here? I am Brad Nilton. I'm the audit manager with Allred Jackson. And why am I here? I'm just the second choice. So Diana is actually away tonight. She had some other commitments, so here I am. But I wanted to go over just a little bit what an audit entails and why the district has an audit, just real quickly. I know that probably many people out here probably see us just tucked away in the rendezvous room with no windows, and I think Dale turns the AC off so that we won't stay as long. But what happens when we come out to audit is ahead of time we request from Dale a list of several financial reports, as well as an outline of the procedures and policies that are in place here at the district and how things are handled with all of the financial records. And what we do is go through all of those financial reports, we go through that list of policies and procedures, and we evaluate each of the areas of the financial records, and we determine what level of risks each area has, and we assess those levels of risks, and based on the risk assessment that we come up with, then we determine we're gonna test these certain areas of the financials. And what I mean by testing is that's where the rubber hits the road. That's where we audit, and auditing includes requesting sometimes a detail of the balances, the transactions that make up an account, and so we'll go into that detail, and maybe we'll pull a sample from the population of what makes up that account. We'll pull a sample of transactions, and we'll go into those transactions, and we'll request from Dell the supporting documentation for those transactions, and we'll go and review that documentation to make sure that each of those transactions was recorded correctly and reflects what actually happened and is classified correctly in the financial records. We also confirm balances with banks, with creditors, with your attorneys. We confirm with them the balances in the accounts. And then we also perform analytical procedures. We calculate ratios and compare those on a year-to-year basis. So that's kind of a little bit of what an audit is and what it entails, and also there's several other components, federal and state requirements as well. But that's a little bit of what we do and why we come in. Why do you need it? Why does the district have an audit? Well, number one is probably to comply with state requirements. You're required by the state to have an audit, to undergo an audit, and another reason is for transparency to your patrons and also for your information as well, so that you can review and keep track of the financial records of the district. Also, it's a good checkup on your procedures and what's going on in the financial and business office. So if anybody has any questions about that or would like to go into that further, let me know. With that, we'll go ahead and go to the next slide, and we'll dive right in here to the financial statements. I'm just going to give you kind of a brief, high-level overview of financial statements, and if you have any questions as we go through or at the end and want to talk about something in more detail, let me know, and we can certainly do that. First off, we're going to start on page 27. It's the statement of net position, and what this is basically your balance sheet for all of the assets and liabilities of all of the funds within the district. And we're just going to highlight a few things on here. You'll notice your cash, you had an increase over the prior year of approximately $3.4 million. And if you go down to your total receivables, you also increased in total receivables approximately $4.5 million, primarily due to the increase in property tax revenue. Further down, your capital assets, if you look down at the total capital assets line, the total capital assets actually decreased in the current year, and a part of that decrease was the retirement of Cash High and Wellsville Elementary. We go to the next slide. This is the liabilities section of the statement of net position, and you'll notice here there's accounts payable decreased, accrued interest decreased. There were some other changes, but overall, if we look down at the total liabilities, they stayed pretty much the same year over year. Any questions on that? Let's go to the next slide then. We'll go to the statement of activities. This is on page 30 if you're following along in your book. This is the income statement for all of the funds of the district. So if we look down at approximately the fourth line up from the bottom, total general revenues, you'll notice that there was a good increase in revenues for the year, 7.7 million. And then if you look down at the next line, the change in net position, that's basically your income amount or the amount of revenues over expenses that you had. And so that's another good positive amount. Because of that positive change, if you turn to the next slide and to page 32 in your book, this is, you were able to increase your undistributed reserve, which is definitely a good thing. That's down, if you look down under where it says committed, the undistributed reserve increased approximately not approximately, but exactly $2 million to $4.5 million. And we discussed this in the audit committee meeting, but this is still under the maximum amount allowed by the state, which is 5% of general fund budgeted expenditures. But it's good that you're building that reserve. That's good to have that on hand for a rainy day fund. But any questions so far on any of that? Let's go to the next slide then. This is the statement of revenues and expenditures for all of the governmental funds of the district. And on here again, we're going to note that, I mean, these numbers are all included and rolled into that other income statement. But you'll notice that property tax revenue increased. Some of the other significant increases were state revenue. Also in expenditures, you had an increase in instructional services, which again, that's a good thing to see that increase in revenue and funding is being used on the students where it's intended. Decrease of $6 million in operation and maintenance of facilities, and also a significant decrease in capital outlay of $10 million, approximately $10 million. So that has to do with wrapping up your building projects and not having as many starting during the year. Any questions on any of that or anything you'd like to go over in more detail on those? If not, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Just a couple other positive things I'd like to point out here as in conclusion. This is your long-term debt footnote. Overall, you had a $10 million reduction in debt, which is great considering you're able to reduce that debt and at the same time build that undistributed reserve up. And then lastly, let's go to the last slide. And these are the summary of all of the audit findings. You'll note that we had an unqualified report, which is a clean report, the best report you can have. We found no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in internal controls as we were going through this year's audit. And then if you go down to numbers B and C there, no findings this year for either the single audit, the audit of federal programs, or of the financial statement audit. So great job there. Any questions?
Everybody good?
Yeah. Thank you.
Maybe you could mention here, you talked about the reserve, we're
Yes.
allowed up to 5%. How much higher could we go here? I think
So it's 5% of the general fund of budgeted expenditures.
yeah, and right now we're at 4.5 million, and how high could we go?
So,
6.5 million.
yeah, what's your, yeah.
6.5?
So we
Okay.
could go another 2 million.
2
Yeah.
million, okay.
So it's general fund budgeted expenditures for either the current year or the the year under audit or the next fiscal budgeted year, so whichever is higher. Great, great question. Any others?
Terry, do you have anything you want to add to it?
No, thank you so much, Brad. I read the whole thing on Tuesday, so.
I figured you would.
I don't have any questions today. I got them all answered before today.
Okay,
Great.
good. All right, and Randall, you got your question answered? Okay, first of all, thanks to Dale and his committee, his office, and the great work they have done there, and we really do appreciate all that you do for us on this audit as well.
Well, again, we appreciate the district and we appreciate Dale and his staff for all that they do to help us with the audit. Thank you.
We have a great budget, really. For the amount of money that we have to run our school district, it is really used very efficiently. And so we appreciate that a lot. And it's nice to have someone on our committee like Terry who can understand all of this stuff and pick up on anything that needs to be corrected or checked on. So anyway, I will now take a motion for the approval of the district financial audit report.
I move that we approve the district financial audit report for fiscal year 19.
I second it.
Okay, any other questions or comments? We'll go ahead and vote then.
Logged in, but for some reason it's not coming up, but yes.
Yeah. So all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Great, okay. All right, we'll move down then for the approval of the parent and family engagement policy. Okay, is Robin here? Are you can do it? Okay. Is there anything that you need to tell us before we vote on this?
No. Robin Hall got called down to Salt Lake today, so.
Okay, all right, then I'll take a motion to approve the parent and family engagement policy.
I move that we approve the parent and family engagement policy.
A second.
Questions or comments?
I appreciate that Leslie did such a great job at her school on it, that the district can use it, theirs as a template. Thanks, Leslie.
And
That's true.
I thought that I went to Birch Creek and they did a great job on theirs as well. One thing we found out while we were at Birch Creek was we didn't know where the core standards were. So I called Jenda yesterday and she's found them and they're up and they'll be explained to the principals so they know how to get that information out to their parents. So thank you so much, all involved, and we'll go ahead and vote on that.
Take your vote.
Yes.
Verbally there. Okay. Okay, so all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay, great. We'll move on to approval for the 2019-2020 Special Education Policies and Procedure Manual update. Joel, is there anything more you want to add before we?
No.
Okay. I'll take a motion then to approve the 2019-2020 Special Education Policies and Procedure Manual update.
Hold on just 1 minute if you can, a second.
Okay. Am I going too fast?
No, just for some reason this didn't capture the last, which is this here. Okay. I'm ready for a motion.
Okay.
I make a motion that we approve the 2019-2020 Special Education Policies and Procedures Manual Update.
Second.
Any questions, comments?
Thanks,
Okay.
Joel.
We'll go ahead and vote.
Oh, it's coming up.
On the special ed.
All the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay, thank you, Joel, for all the work on that. Appreciate it. Next, I will take a motion for the, well, do you have anything you want to say about this, Dale?
Yeah, there should be, well, I know attached to this is a formal resolution. Basically mirrors the same resolution with the updated numbers and dates from Phase 1 funding that we entered into a couple months ago. So anyway, this here would be to approve the financing for Phase 2, which we reviewed in, I think, in the last board meeting anyway, all the projects that are part of that. And so it has all the legal reviews that Jeremy Raymond has conducted for us from Olson and Hogan. And so it'd just be looking for your vote to approve that.
Okay. I'll take a motion to approve the Johnson Controls Phase 2 project and financing.
I move that we approve the Johnson Controls Phase 2 project and financing.
I second it.
Any questions, comments?
When does this start?
It has started. Phase 1 is, we've got 2 or 3 schools already completed,
Mm-hmm.
and we are in the process of doing the engineering, and working towards Phase 2.
Okay.
We'll right behind, we'll have 90% complete by the time school starts next year.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. We'll go ahead and vote.
Okay, all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay. And thank you very much. We appreciate all that you're doing to help our district. Next, I will take a motion for the approval of a student expulsion.
I make a motion to approve the student expulsion.
Second.
Anybody have any more questions or comments? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote on that one then.
Okay, all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay, all right, great. Thank you, everyone. On that, we'll move down to our reports for tonight. And our first one will be from Leslie from Lewiston Elementary on an amendment of their trust plan funds for Lewiston.
You know, I was pondering, this is my 3rd year coming in to do an amendment, and I thought, why am I so bad at planning ahead? And then I realized, no, it's just that we're constantly looking at how best to use the funds.
Yep.
So there you go.
Yep.
We got to look at it in the positive light. So I think you got a copy of the amendment plan ahead of time, and our original goal 1 is our math goal, and goal 3 ties into our TSI. Our school was placed on targeted school improvement due to some EL scores, along with a few other schools in the district. Anyway, our original plan was to purchase some technology to help support curriculum and access for students to for Chromebooks for goal 1, and for goal 3, we had a groups of 3 teams of teachers that we were going to take down to the PLC conference, Solution Tree PLC conference, which is amazing, and I've been there. And we felt like it would be a good idea to take 3 teams and a whole team and have them work together. And as the year began and we started looking at filling the needs of students and covering small group instruction during the school day, we found we needed more paraprofessionals than we originally had anticipated. And as we talked about it with School Community Council and a few other places, we felt like putting those funds actually right into the school and with students was probably a pretty good move. I think that our district's really good to see the value of people, and I always talk about that we put a lot of money into paras, and there's a reason, because that when you can put that face in front of a small group of kids, it has a big impact. We are still moving ahead with some of the Chromebooks, but for 40 of the Chromebooks, I have another source that I can fund those, so we'll still be able to get those using a different source of funds. And then the PLC conference, we had a lot of new teachers this year, and they have a lot of other commitments, and so we felt like that conference is actually this coming week, which is Halloween week, which is also a crazy time for a new teacher to be out of the out of the school. So anyway, we still think that's a valuable thing, but we'll probably postpone it and maybe try to take a team next year when they do that. So if you look at it, we moved those funds for the Chromebooks and for the conference, paying for the actual registration and everything, down to salaries and benefits, and it will fund the cost of approximately 3 paraprofessionals. Well, 3 paras, probably. As I've looked at the budgets, that's where we're at, give or take a few $100s. So
Great.
So that's where we plan to put it for 3 people. We're going to
Okay.
trade those Chromebooks and that conference for 3 people.
All right.
So that's our proposal. Any other questions?
No, very well written.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's really
It was clear.
easy to
Yeah,
read and
very
understand,
clear.
and thank you very much.
Do you already have those 3 hired?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, they're there. We'll have to go back and say, sorry. But no, I think we'd figure out a way too if we really got desperate, but, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All
Okay.
right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, our 2018-19 financial report. Dale.
Yeah, just, so on board docs, you had an electronic copy of what I also left in front of you on your desk there, but, so this is actually the report that we prepare and submit to the State Board of Education and to the State Auditor's Office that details all of the financing of the school district for this past year. So in the book itself, the first, I don't know, 30 pages or so, 27 pages are the detailed report that looks on a fund level. So you have your general fund, you have the debt service fund, capital outlay, and all of those that way. But the report itself is easy to follow, where it compares the actual expenditures from 2 years ago, I guess, 2018 year. Then it shows the final legal budget for this year that we just completed, the 2019. It shows the actual revenues, expenditures, so you can compare that to the budget. And then it also shows what our proposed, or the original budget here for this new 2020 fiscal year is. And so it's a good comparison all the way across there. It starts out, first lists your presentation of the balance sheet for each fund, so you can see, you know, the assets and liabilities. But probably the most important thing is the equity or the fund balance section, where you can see, for example, on page 2, which is the first page showing the general fund, it will list then, as Brad had talked about, the committed or undistributed reserve, and our equity balance is $4.5 million. We had a $1.6 million tied into funds that we have allocated out to the schools, which are unrestricted funds, so they're discretionary in that sense. But they were not actually spent, and so they will carry over into the new year. And I'll show you the detail on that quickly in just a second. So there's $1.6 million there. The $4.6 million is for funds that they're restricted, or excuse me, they're unrestricted, and they are, so these are assigned. So these are actually your carryover balances of state programs that were not expended. So these are basically really restricted programs there. And then the last thing is your unassigned fund balance, which is the funds that are free and clear, have no ties at this point with the year ending, and that totaled the $4,625,000. Yeah, $4,625,000. So if you went back to page 20, where are we? Page 37. Sorry. This is where I give a detail of the fund balance in the general fund itself. So it'll show there, actually we have $4.8 million of what we'll call deferred revenue into the new year, because the state definition is that state restricted funds that we receive are not to be recognized as revenue until they are expended for the purpose they were provided. So it ends up being we don't show them as revenue in the current year, we defer those as revenue into the next year. So these will be deferred into the 2020 year. It shows the $4.5 million for the undistributed reserve, $30,000 we have for a fire deductible. And then the detail there shows program balances, but these are all of unrestricted funds that we have allocated out. So this might be custodial supply allocations or student supply textbook allocations and that we make out to the schools that they didn't spend and will carry over to the new year. So there's a good list there of items that would total the 1.6 million. That includes also like the Smithfield Rec Center that we operate jointly with Smithfield City. And so there's a reserve that's being built up to anticipate future renovations in the HVAC system or any other repairs like that, replacing the floor as they come up occasionally. And so that would show like a $230,000 reserve that we are holding as of the end of this last year. The page right behind that will show you a 6-year comparison of how the year-end balance compares to past years. And it's actually the second highest carryover balance that we've had in the last 6 years. And you can also see the undistributed reserve right there in the middle, where in fiscal 15 it was at 1.6 million. It bumped to 2 million in 16, 2.5 in 17, maintained that in 18, but then bumped it to 4.5 this year, in the 19 year. So that's excellent movement. That'll help the bond rating agencies feel a little bit better about us, I hope, as we keep moving forward. If you go to page 40, you can just see the equity section in the capital outlay fund itself. And so we ended the year there with a $7 million fund equity. But again, much of that is already designated for specific items. We have like instructional equipment allocations that are made out to the schools that they didn't spend all of it, so there's $414,000 that will roll over into the new year. We have this agreement where we'll replace the artificial turf fields at the high schools. And so we've started every year putting funding for that, so we're up to almost $200,000, anticipating when that'll come due again. Just operating it for the district maintenance department, there's $2 million. A lot of that is when they are doing roof replacements or parking lot resealing or even replacements. A lot of those are in bad shape that they have many projects that they can easily use this in. And then the 4.2 million is the balance of the capital foundation or equalization funds that we receive for projects. And right now we have a number of projects we're doing. We have it at Skyview. There's the double wide portable classroom they're using for the adult post-high school program is going to be moved out to Skyview. Ridgeline has the 10 classroom addition that we're working on. There's, oh, help me, Mike, I'm going blank. Which one? River Heights hasn't started yet. Spring Creek, we're doing, taking the classrooms that were like the tech classrooms for welding and different, that were large classrooms, and remodeling those to become regular classrooms, so it gives us additional teaching space there. Also the renovation of the main floor of the new district office, turning that into 4 instructional or in-service rooms for us. So all of those are being in here, plus there's some storage that's being built out there, but all of that will eat that up and
So,
then, so.
Dale, why is it an adult education room being sent to Skyview? I thought we did all the adult education at Cache High.
Yeah, it's a post-high school.
Oh,
So they
okay.
have been meeting out in River Heights at the testing center and are still there, and they'll be there until this is completed, but,
So who do
The
they
building's
teach?
already
Who do
there.
they teach? High school kids?
the new portable, or the,
They're there.
yeah, that's not completely done. No, this is a
Oh,
brand
the
new in the
older
building.
special, okay, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
there was an
that's
old home there
awesome,
that they-
okay.
They tore it down,
Yeah, that's
and now
gone.
the other building's. same
So where are they right now?
I know they're in the process.
Still?
It's not,
Okay.
it might be ready by Christmas or something perhaps, but,
Okay.
anyway, so, yeah, we are getting rid of the testing center in River Heights. That's going to be, transferred to River Heights City. But we've got our adult, or post-ed program there until this room is ready at Skyview. I think that's supposed to be ready around Christmas time, if I remember right, wasn't it, or? I think so. So anyway, those are progressing well. The page 41 looks at the school lunch fund itself, and so you can see the operations there have continued to improve. The one thing that makes this look so much better is that because the year before this, we in air had charged indirect cost against all of their expenditures, and then later were instructed that we shouldn't have charged indirect costs on their food purchases. And so there was about $325,000 that we refunded back to the school lunch program this past year. So that made their profit margin look really good. But it looked a lot worse the year before that. So, and then the last report in that book is a report that takes each program that we offer and gives an individual reporting of revenues and expenditures for that. So that on page 46, these are actually summary pages of the different sections. So it will have the general education summarized on this page, then special education. The CTE programs are in the fourth column there, special populations. It goes all the way through. And then following that, we'll show the detail of each of those subcategories so that you can actually see what the preschool program is costing us, or what the trust land funds were used for. And anyway, so it goes into a nice detail there that be there for your reference also. So, I don't know if anybody has any questions on that, or.
Thanks, Dale.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. We will go ahead and move on next to the monthly financial reports.
We'll make this one fairly brief. Actually, there's 3 months of reports here. This will be for July, August, and September. And so looking at September, I think going into detail itself, you can see a few areas where we have spent a larger proportion of this year's budget in certain categories than had been spent of their total expenditures a year ago. A lot of that is because we actually picked up 537 more students at the October 1 count this year than we had last year. So that's almost a full elementary school. But they are spread across all the grades. The one that actually grew the most would be the 9th grade, where we have many charter school kids whose programs only go up through 8th grade. So they joined back with us in the 9th grade. So we'd get quite a bump there. But anyway, so this report here does reflect the carryover balance from the audited numbers. They're all included in here. But it will not show probably until December what the revised revenue line items are based off the increased student enrollment. But we have hired additional teachers in many cases, or additional paraprofessional time that we've given, and so those would bump us a little bit out of our current planned expenditure line. So those will need to be adjusted as we get our revenue figures updated. In fact, we'll probably adjust the expenditure side prior to that because the carryover is sufficient to cover that and then some, so. But anyway, going down through the report itself, I think we're good in every situation there I can see, like I say, other than a few things. Counselors, I know we're a little bit over on salaries, that we'll have to adjust that some. But I think everything else really looks good. Capital projects, we're just getting that updated now with some of the other projects we're anticipating. One is where we have, how many portables out there at River Heights? 6? So 6 portable classrooms there will be replaced with I think it's about an 8 classroom addition, I believe. Is it 8 classrooms? I think we're building out there. That's still kind of in the design phase and coming up, but the funding we'll have budgeted to come out of this year or even into next year's budget if we have to, depending on the cost of that. But anyway, so really in all of our funds here, we are operating well. We can see in the health and dental insurance fund that our fund balance did actually decrease from what it was the year prior, but I know we did incur a 15% premium increase in our insurance for this new year to try to get that back in line, so that will help us there also. So anyway, that's really just kind of that in a nutshell, unless there's any questions.
Anybody have any questions or comments?
With all the growth and remodeling and increase in buildings that's happening, when do we anticipate that we'll have to do the 10 classroom addition to Green Canyon? Wow, really? Okay.
And that money does not come out of the bond, right? We're just taking it out of
There's
our,
no bond money left.
yeah.
Yeah,
So we're
bond
just
money's all
paying for it.
spent, so it would have to come out of capital equalization funds. And so, yeah. Or we go back to the patrons and put together a bond election
Yeah.
if we have to.
I haven't heard that mentioned yet since I've been in this position for the last several months. Is that something that's been brought up and I wasn't aware of it? I mean, is that something that's on the horizon?
A bond?
Yeah. Like what kind of horizon?
The not too distant future.
Five-ish years.
I know that Steve commented one time that he said it's probably time to start looking into a bond, setting up a committee to do what you were on, look at the building situation, see what's needed.
For elementaries.
Yeah, we kind of anticipated enrollment to level off here for a couple of years, but it definitely didn't do it this year.
There's a ton of building right now in Smithfield up
Yeah.
by where I live.
Yeah, Smithfield has a lot up on that east bench.
And Hiram.
And Hyde.
And Hiram.
It's
And
all
Hyde
over.
Park. And North Logan.
Hyde Park, same thing.
And Newton. We got 5 new houses this year.
Oh, awesome.
So on a percentage basis, you
I know.
increase more than all
Right.
of us.
Exactly.
50% increase.
Hey, Kathy, when the board wants it, if Gary and I were preparing a presentation on what our current capacity looks like in our schools, when we start planning, just let me know what it looked like today.
So would that be a good thing for us to put on the agenda for maybe our next meeting?
That's up to you guys when you would want that.
I would like to see
Do you
that.
want to do that?
Your
Okay.
screen's too little, Gary. I can't
I'd be
see it.
shocked.
Is that
I
yours?
mean, I'd be really shocked if we were 5 years away from that step. I mean, it seems like.
We would be shocked too, I think.
Well, that's what I keep telling people when they ask me in meetings. 5 years, 5 years.
I mean, by the time we were able to assess this, we'd be nearly 10 years, I mean, at least 8 or 9 years removed from the last round. I mean, the time between the previous 2 bonds was similar. It's about 8 years or so, 7, 8 years.
So from beginning to end, Mike, about how long does it take to put together a bond in 3 years? So yeah, we need to,
4 years to have anything up.
True.
You mean
Like
buildings up?
buildings.
When you say up,
Buildings.
that means buildings up 4 years? Okay. So do we
need to
just
have a rich
D-
uncle.
Do we just have DWA on
Leave us the
permanent
money.
retainer?
Okay, well, kind of plan on that for next time. I'll put it, I put it on my list to go on.
For the study session.
Yeah. Well, can you be ready by then?
What, so we will have all the information.
Okay, yeah. All right. Anything else on the monthly financial reports? Okay, thanks again, Dale. Board committee reports, a couple of things going here. Roger, what have you found out about the opening meeting?
Okay, open meeting law, we need to watch that before December 1. And
Is
I
that
did
the
it.
one on USBA, on the USBA website?
Power
power
School.
up.
Yeah,
So you do power up, and if you can't remember your username and password, then you can email, let's see, it's mmendez@USBA, I think it was,
Megan?
usba.cc.
Okay.
So she'll send you, if you can't remember it. I just did it this week, and I did change my password once a couple years ago, and then I couldn't remember it, so they reassigned it, and my password was just power up, and your username is your email address. So, but if you can't remember it, just email her, and she'll get back with you. But it has to be completed by December 1.
So do they have a brand-new program, or is it one of the old ones that?
I just used the old one. I couldn't find a new one.
So we can just sign up for any of them that we want?
Like
Okay, so to explain to you, Chris, they had four open law meeting presentations that we took, 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we're starting over, so you can go back and, well, we'll go back and take one, but you probably should start with number 1 on yours.
And I don't know that it matters which open law meeting you take, as long as you do one every year.
And you can retake them if you get 98% and you want to have 100.
So she's telling you they have a little quiz at the end,
Yeah.
so.
So if you miss an answer, they'll tell you the right answer. Write
Oh,
it
I
down.
won't.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Smarty Pants.
But could somebody send me an email or something with a link to this, or where is it? Where is it?
You just go to, we go to USBA.
USBA,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then they got a link down in the corner you can just click on to power
I-
up.
I'll send you some info.
Yeah, thanks, I appreciate it.
Okay. I would send it to you, but I'm not a good one to help you in this area at all. Okay, thank you, Roger. Anything on the high school student needs?
no, we're still working on that. I
Okay.
know the superintendent's been busy meeting with each faculty, right, Mike? He's been meeting with each faculty, so he's been pretty busy, plus he was sick.
Well, I think we should do it early
As soon as we can.
Yeah, from now on. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yep.
And then, I mean, we can see how they fly, if it's something that's beneficial and works, and
I know, if you
if
got
it's
it.
not, then maybe we won't want to pursue it any further, but it'd be
We could
nice.
start with one anyway and
Yeah.
see how that
If I
works.
could find it.
Okay,
Okay, I'll send it.
all right, then, I hope you can remember, it's been such a long time ago, the Fall Leadership Academy, but Roger, Jeff, and then Terry, you want to report on something that you thought was
I'll go
good?
first then, since
Okay,
I listened to Lexi Cunningham, and it goes right along with having a meeting with the schools. Lexi Cunningham is the Salt Lake City superintendent, and her word is love. First of all, L for listen, O for others, perspective, V for value, and encourage. And she will go to a high school and invite some of the kids to come and have lunch with her. But her big focus is to love everyone, and they've had real good success in Salt Lake District
like a
with that.
safety, kind of a safety thing.
Just getting people's information, just to show that the student's voice is important, and listening to them and their concerns. So, and their Salt Lake City had I could send you a link to what they did, and it was really quite interesting, so I'll do that. But
Okay.
she did a good job on presenting hers.
Okay. Jeff?
So I forgot my notes, but that lady that spoke the first night, I thought quite a bit about that after about appealing to all these different generations, as it were, and how one thing that works for one group may not work for another. And then I talked a little bit with Reed Newey from the Davis District later, and he told me about some of the struggles they're having of trying to reach out to everybody. And it appears that, you know, the communication that we have with the patrons is very critical for our success and for us being able to identify, you know, best practices, right? And so I think that needs to be, at least it's going to be a focus of mine, is to, if there's a group that we're not reaching, how can we reach them? And so anyway, I don't have any defined goals or anything yet, but I'm going to do that.
So are you talking about on a board level, how we as a board can reach out to?
Well, it could be the board, it could be the district, it could be both. That's why I haven't been able to really quantify what that means yet, but even communicating with my own kids is, you know, I've had to come up with, I've had to learn a few things. And so I think that especially now, we can't be stagnant in how we're doing this communication, and we need to identify if there's any pitfalls there. So
Okay, well, keep us
it was
posted.
good, yeah.
Terry?
I just had some one-liners that I came home with, except for the last day I went to the bond presentation by Rick, help me, Superintendent Nielsen? No. Shh. Sorry. Anyway, because Rick Nielsen from Nebo School District, because they just passed a massive bond. And he talked about the things that he did there. So that was something that I got the most out of. But in the Voice in the Legislature class by Reed Newey and Mary Nilsson, I appreciated that the idea that when people donate money to the district or to the Cash Education Foundation, we need to invite those people to come and visit our schools and our district, so they can see what we're doing in our district. That's really important. From Terry Shoemaker in the legislative class, Mike Anderson, who is the assistant superintendent in Jordan School District, said either you're at the table or you're on the menu in the legislature. So it's important for us to be at the table, and that people who show up at anything have a presence and make a difference. So I made it my personal goal to create a better relationship with Jenny Earl, who is our state board representative. But really, the thing that I appreciated the reminder on Saturday before we left, that the bottom line of all of this is that this is about kids. And it's an honor and a privilege to impact kids, not only to be the best they can be now, but in the future.
Great, thank you. Okay, couple of...
Just one thing, Kathy.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So Mike came up with 3 great options for calendar next year. I have my own favorite, but I won't let that out of the bag until you have a chance to look at it. But they're being considered by the representatives on the committee, but I'll send them to you to see if you have any input on it. So.
Should we put it on the agenda for the next meeting?
Yeah, I'll send out the copies that Carolyn gave us, but we can talk about it next time.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
Is spring break split again next year? Because that's all I've heard about this year.
No.
spring break.
You let the cat out of the bag, Mike.
That's all I have heard about at every school meeting I've gone to. Why did they put 3 days in one week and 1 day in the next week for spring break? I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not on the calendar committee. Call someone.
No, there's some really good options, so
Awesome.
you guys will like these things.
Well, no matter how good they are, there's going to be people who are going to be unhappy with them, so.
Mike may have gotten the perfect one this time. I'm
Oh.
really happy with it, but we'll see.
All right.
That's another one of the things that I learned at the Leadership Academy, that we are the board who has to try to make the best bad decisions.
So true. Okay, anybody else have anything to add on committee reports that I didn't have you down for?
One thing I remember is, in one of the things I went to, they said, get the legislators in the classrooms. And I thought when we went on tours, it was really great because they went in the classroom and watched what was happening. They said, don't emphasize the class size. Emphasize what they are doing in the classroom for the kids. So I think we need to remember that. Even though the class sizes are big, they're no different than they are. You know, when I started teaching in 1978, my class was 36. So I think the thing we need to remember is emphasize what we're doing in the classroom and what the teachers are doing.
Do we have very many paraprofessionals in secondary classes, or not so much?
What was your question?
Do we have very many paraprofessionals in secondary classes? Is that something we'd ever,
Special classes like special ed or ESL or those type of courses with extra help because you have to diversify the curriculum. Do a lot of different levels.
I'm just thinking that having extra people in those classrooms that are huge is really advantageous. So is that something we're ever thinking, if we had the money, we would do?
More team teaching in some situations like that. But maybe
Oh, really? Okay, I can see that. Just the more adult help that there is with people who know what they're talking about.
Well,
is
the
great.
legislature seems to be impervious to the lower class sizes rhetoric. So I wonder if we change the conversation to, could we work on lowering the student to teacher ratio?
By having
And
more teachers in the classroom.
and because if we as a district could not afford to lower class sizes because we can't build that many buildings.
Right.
But could we lower the student to teacher ratio in the existing classrooms that we have? Because in the elementary, we've shown that that's successful with small reading groups and things like that.
I think you have to be careful with the terminology you use though. You can't say student to teacher ratio if they're not certified teachers.
Student to adult ratio? Okay.
So today on Facebook, you had some team teachers at South Cache. Is that what I saw, the headlines? So are they two certified teachers in the same classroom?
With lots of students? I haven't.
They're students with special needs, so we'll take students
Okay.
who are at risk or are in special educational, but usually a special educator with a regular classroom teacher. And then again, they can attend to the needs of the students much better than working as a team with single teachers trying to address so many different needs and levels.
So it's kind of like an inclusion?
Yeah, but it's not just special ed, it's also students who are behind in a subject. And we've done it in mathematics to start with, but we've expanded this year into ELA, and I think we even have one science co-teaching class.
Something to look forward to and think about. Okay, as far as the board president report, I was just looking at the bios, and some of them have been up there for quite a while, and some of them might not still be accurate. Larry's changed a few things since he put his up. I don't even know if anybody ever reads them, but if there's anything you want to update or change, Carolyn said just send it to her.
Okay.
and she'll do that. She'll take care of it. And then, Chris, we need to get a picture of you.
I don't know what to do other than hunt Steve Mackley down. I mean, he took my picture. It's there out in the ether somewhere. I guess he just needs to.
Has he
Send
taken it
to me.
already for
Yeah.
this?
It took 6 months
Months
after
ago.
I joined the board.
Oh, really?
For me, it was like probably 3-4 months ago at least.
Oh,
that he took it.
okay. I'll have Carolyn check on that with him.
Okay.
All right.
I think we're all better off without it up there. That's what my kids would tell you.
So she has one on the board page, but I think she took that one off of the.
It was taken from the USU website, yeah.
Uh-huh. If all else fails. Could you?
Sure.
Could we use that one?
Yeah,
or-
let me just snap a selfie here. I'll just forward that to you.
Well, if Steve has taken them, we'll
Just
look
put it
into
through a
that.
Snapchat filter and it'll
Yeah.
be great.
Okay. All right, and then, okay, last time, I just handed out this board self-assessment sheet for you to look over and see if there were any subjects on that you would like training during the course of this next year. Did anybody find anything? Did you look at them?
Sorry, Kathy, I'll look at it.
Just send them to me.
Okay.
If there's something on those sheets that you think, oh yeah, I don't really know much about this, but I'd like to look into it or discuss it or whatever, email it to me.
Okay.
Okay, then we'll spread them throughout the year. The USBA convention is January 9th, 10th, and 11th. And Carolyn is going to make reservations at Little America for all of us and also pay our registration fees. But if anyone is not going, we need to let her know by, I think it's the 1st of December. And then they'll reimburse, she can cancel and reimburse. And then,
So that's if we're not going.
if you're not going.
She's going, okay.
Yeah, she'll take care of all of that for everybody. Otherwise, if you're not going. And then, Chris, sometimes people take their spouses or their spouses and families down and they hang out in Salt Lake and do things. I'm just letting you know.
Is it the
in
same
case-
thing as the Leadership Academy? It starts
Yeah.
on the evening of Thursday
Yes.
and then, okay.
Yeah.
And Green Canyon Choir is presenting on the
Oh, really?
Thursday night.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Let's see. And there was one other thing that you told me. Oh, if I can remember where I wrote it down. Should put it on my notes. Okay, I think also if you have spouses who are going to eat, the dinner is $46 and the lunch is $24. I thought I had that written down exactly, and I don't anyplace, so I'll email it to you, and then you can take care of that as well, okay? And then I thought I would just share with you, the one thing that I really loved about our conference, just cleared up so many great questions that I had years ago, early on in the board, which is, what is our function as a board? And all of you probably remember this, but it was the Davis County board president who gave a little 10-minute presentation that last day. And he said, if you think of your district as a cruise ship, the board is the rudder that kind of keeps guiding it through the ocean. The superintendent is the engine who keeps moving it forward, and the staff in the district and in the schools is the crew. I thought that was such a good analogy because I'm used to being the crew, and it's been really hard for me to
Not to be the crew?
not to be the crew. And we are not the crew, but we are there to give ideas and information and help however we can. So anyway, I liked that. I thought that was good. Hey, does anybody else have anything more to add?
Yeah, Mountain Crest has a state football tomorrow, and so does Ridgeline, right?
Ridgeline,
And Ridgeline girls are playing in the semis right now, soccer.
Soccer.
So they're playing right now, so. And if you went to Ridgeline and Skyview, they played a close game, and it was cold and windy last Saturday, even before Utah State's game, but those girls did great on both schools, so,
Did you go to the game?
yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And the soccer game,
Oh,
so.
thanks for representing
It
us.
is cold and wet.
Okay, anything else? All right, then, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.